We live for the experience. The photograph can bring you back to those moments, and that's what is magical about photography.
I am the one who's trying to catch the joy of surfing. That's the beauty about photography, isn't it? That you can really look at it after a few years and you will laugh and you will just talk about the time when we were together.
I want my kids and my wife experience everything what I'm doing. If I can't take my family, it's not really a proper trip for me. They are your genes, and they do what you love, and it makes every daddy happy when his little girl starts snapping pictures around, and she actually enjoys that. Magic's happening all the time, and the Nikon Z is the camera which can capture that.
For me, it was a coming home feeling. Yeah? The first impression was with the firm advanced level.
My biggest joy in photography is when I see this whole imagination and this whole vibe. That's the most joyful moment for me.
I feel to see the tradition of Nikon in this camera.
Yeah, getting the camera, looking through the display, opened some memories to me, and I noticed through the camera that I slow down and take more time for each picture and appreciate the moment.
So for me it was photography, to keep a moment and to freeze a view of what you see. This is why it came, I think, in our family. This sound keeps me smiling.
My name is Konstantin. I do photography, and I started doing photos in the age of 10 because I got my first camera from my parents. They used to take photos, and I was curious about which camera they used back then, and so I got my hands on my first Nikon. Nowadays I shoot with the Z6.
My name is Gregor. I came to photography a little bit on a different way. 12 or 13 years old with a quite old film camera which I bought from my neighbor, and then had the possibility to get this Nikon FE2. And I started to investigate how to taking pictures. First beginning with photos of nature, and then started to move a little bit to more urban style. I think my main motivation compared to Konstantin is more in documentation of moments of life.
When I was young, there were a lot of pictures from like the holidays and the weekends, and so my interest in photography became bigger. I started using my brain and my imagination of how I can frame things, how I see things around me. So this is how and why I started doing photography. The last couple of days with the new Z FC, I started doing other pictures than I normally do because it's not as big as my Z6 setup. It's light, it's more flexible, and I noticed through the camera that the city changed in some places.
My first impression was when I got this camera, okay, I'm back in the past somehow, and this is coming back to my real photography. So this was for me a quite good experience. This camera brings old technology and quite new one somehow together, and this is for me a bridge.
These new Nikon Z FCs opened up a view for me of you and also the other way around.
Maybe I understood a little bit more how these guys are working because believe me, this is quite difficult for our generation to understand. I started with analog photography. I think there was no possibility for me in this time to make some development of negatives and to see the results. So I had to trust what I did. So I tried to get a good picture from the starting point.
I know you have more the technical understanding of the whole thing, and I'm more like the guy who just takes his camera and looks at the screens and says, ah, this looks nice. What is important for me is the right picture in the end. The Nikon Z FC helps me for being quicker, getting this shot I see. It's lighter, so I definitely carry it around more often than I do with my Z6.
I think the camera brings me back how I worked in the past. Functionality power is really important, but if I see such vintage design, for me it's also important because I like it very much. And the combination between technology and design, I think, is here a quite good compromise.
For me, what's also pretty interesting is that I have these old lenses you did photos with when you were young, and I took now the lenses and I pick this old thing, put it into the future and replicate the image again.
For me it's important that I can provide something to my children. So why not lenses or camera? Because then I know they know what I did. Maybe they can transfer it somehow in the future. And this is for me really important, because that's much more than taking only pictures.
My name is George Carbus. I'm a wild ocean photographer based in Lahinch, west coast of Ireland. I'm focused on seascapes, landscapes, wildlife, big waves and all the stuff which I like about the ocean. I love to bring my family with me. I want my kids and my wife to experience everything what I'm doing. So if I can't take my family, it's not really a proper trip for me.
So actually when we came to Ireland, that was the first place where we stopped. We taught our kids our hobbies, so we still could continue, you know, and enjoy the time all together.
When we got Joshua, the best adventure started. Suddenly I had that feeling that I have to show him everything what we know, everything what we learn, what we see on this planet.
So I think that's a huge part of the family as well, that we're kind of working all together.
My first love with the photography was when I used to live in Mallorca. I really wanted to get a proper camera, but I never had the money. When I came to Ireland and started working here, I finally saved money for a proper camera. I always loved Nikon. I had a chance to work with other brands and it never felt the same. And went all the way from D200 up to the Z7 II these days. I fell in love with the seascapes here and got hugely inspired by Ireland. Shortly after that, I went for surf, and there was a surfer beside me, and it's behind the corner there's a solitary dolphin who lives there. So we went there the next day and she was there. So we start calling her Malinka, which means in Czech, little girl. She inspired me in life and in photography in many ways.
The story with Malinka is absolutely incredible because I discovered who I am thanks to her and playing with her in the water.
I photographed Joshua a lot since he was really small. Mainly, I photograph what he loves to do.
Last summer I built Joshi a half pipe in the garden. It's great for us to hang out around and for him to practice. And I can get some great shots of him.
Joshi is a really good surfer, and I think for him it's very important that he can see himself how he's surfing, so he can learn so much. George is usually the one who's surfing with Joshi. So I am the one who's filming them, and I am the one who's trying to catch all those beautiful turns and, you know, the joy of surfing. When I'm filming Josh, we have kind of our sign language. When he's surfing and he does really good, he always look at me and wave at me, and I usually wave back on him, so that's our sign that, yes, I got it. He loves it. Once he comes home, the first thing what he wants to see are the videos. This camera is absolutely perfect for me, and I would say for whole our family, because when I was working with George's cameras, it's hard, heavy, you know, you couldn't really work with them that well. And I will be using it all the time because it gives you the freedom, you know, to take the pictures anytime you want to, because you have it always with you.
I've been using a Nikon Z FC for a couple of days now, and so far I'm very impressed. It looks good, it's small, it's portable. For me, this camera is a memory capture camera, the moment capture camera. I don't need a huge files, I need those memories. What is great about this camera, you can put the entire range of Z lenses on it. The dials look stylish. If you don't want to work with dials, you can set up everything on LCD. I would have this as a second body for the size, for the compactness, for the lightweight, and for the cool look, mainly. It looks different, and I like it. For me, this camera is kind of camera which can hang on your neck all the time, which I never do with my regular setup. My camera is always on my backpack, so everywhere you go, there's something happening. I'm not missing those beautiful family moments when I'm on the trip with kids, and this is the camera which can capture that because it could be with you.
I think George, he's so talented. I think he has the gift to see beauty, and I think he has even talent to inspire other people with his work, because my relationship with Malinka, it's so special and full of feelings and respect. He can take beautiful pictures, but they're full of emotions, and even after a while when you look at the pictures, I still can feel how I felt in that moment when I was with her in the water.
I think photography preserves family memories the best. We live for the experience. The photograph can bring you back to those moments, and that's what is magical about photography. Sometimes I wonder if the kids appreciate where they live or what they experience, but they do. They love to see themselves on the pictures. They just take it so naturally.
Natalie, she has totally different view of images than us, and Josh is really enjoying it as well. It's incredible to watch them actually, how they're enjoying it. And on the other side, it's very nice because they're listening George, and I love that because he's nicely passing his experience on our kids as well.
Kids are very present. That's what we love about them. I think when they grow up and they will see those photos, it will be amazing. They will love them. They will see those epic moments of their childhood documented. My nicest memories when I was a kid were when we surrounded in family and looking at the pictures of when Dad was building our first boat for us. That's the power of pictures.
What I see in this camera is the tradition of Nikon. From a standpoint of design, it's quite remarkable, and really it's exactly the same feeling like my FE2.
The design is amazing. It's a great looking camera, and it's small enough to hide it in the pocket, to put it on your neck.
The first feature was the new touch display. I can get more angles with it.
I love the vari-angle tilting screen. Gives you great options for different angles. You can go low, you can go high. So it's a great little feature on this camera. What is great about Nikon Z FC is this portability, very lightweight, full of amazing features inside. It's capturing 20 megapixel photos, which are just big enough to print anything up to A3, A2.
But it was incredible how small the camera was, and I was still able to make such a good videos, and it looked so beautifully. I couldn't believe it. And even that we could do it in a slow motion from such a distance.
I really enjoy the buttons with these really mechanical response. It's for me quite important for my way of taking pictures.
I can easily switch with my fingers between the front dial and the back dial for like the aperture and the shutter speed.
When I'm setting up this camera, I'm setting up this exactly like my Z7 II, Z6 II. So I like to go to manual mode. I like to have a control where my shutter speed is and where my aperture is. Shooting on auto ISO, it's so comfortable. You don't have to be worried about your exposure. You just dial in what you want from shutter speed and what you want from f-number. Most of the situations, the focusing system works really well, especially with eye detection, people face detection, animal eye detection. I love those features.
We know Nikon for lenses and for the quality of their lenses. So really being flexible from quite old systems up to the new one, I think this is really a huge benefit here.
What is great about this camera, you can put the entire range of Z lenses on it. DX, FX, any of these you can put on the camera and they work. I'm very excited to work with this camera. Nikon Z FC is this kind of camera which anybody really can use, and it will capture those precious moments.